Hello and welcome back to Second Take Movies, a podcast where we give movies a second look, a second chance, second take, if you will. I'm your host, Preston Jenkinson, and joining me for the third time on this podcast is Larry Parks.
Once again, always a pleasure.
Yes. We'll probably do the second and third Blade movies at some point when they announce the MCU Blade movie. It's slowly in the works because he showed up at the end of Eternals in voice only.
Did? Oh, I didn't even watch that.
Yeah.
One of those. Now that you speak about Eternals, right? I was all cool with Eternals. Like everybody was giving Eternals a bad rep or a bad rating.
Yeah.
So I watched it, right?
Yeah.
And I was cool with the Eternals until I got to the end, and I was like,
it's cool that Dane Whitman as Black Knight is going to show up in Blade, but I hate it had to be through Eternals. But
I was like, all right, well, I guess this makes sense. But Eternals, and another thing with Eternals is like there was only really one person that was effective at anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Angelina Jolie's character, but you didn't know which, and if she was gonna go multiple personality on your ass.
Yeah.
But then you had freaking Icarus, and Icarus was the only person that could do something. The other guy can shoot bullets out of his fingers, and then you had the other girl that could change metal into water. But then it's like, what is like all we're doing is basically holding off until Icarus gets here. It's like, man, like if this ain't the worst team of misfits. So
that's kind of what we went to in the episode I did on it. Was they tried to cover too many characters in one movie that wasn't an Avengers movie,
right?
So
right.
But the movie we're talking about today, we kind of got off topic, but the movie we're talking about is X-Men Apocalypse. It came out in like 2015, 2016?
2016.
Yeah. And the story for that is in the 1980s, the X-Men must defeat the ancient alien, all-powerful mutant Sabanur, who intends to thrive through bringing in destruction to the world. And we like to also start with a positive and a negative review. The positive review from Screen Daily by Tim Grierson. The X-Men adventures keep getting bigger, but Singer works extremely hard to ensure that even when they're not always better, they continue to thrill sufficiently. And the negative review from Variety by Jeff Berkshire says, although the X-Men ensembles are usually large, there are simply too many characters for the action-heavy Apocalypse to properly juggle.
You know what? I think both of those reviews are very valid. I think I kind of put somewhat in my notes both of those, pretty much what they said, but in my own words.
Okay, so since this is like the second movie with what I'll call the new cast, do you prefer the original cast or the new cast?
This is the third one.
Well, this is kind of, it is the third one with the new cast. I'm sorry, because all of these got mixed in Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past was kind of like a Wolverine / X-Men First Class joint, but this was, if you wanted to count this, this is basically one where you pretty much take Wolverine out, even though Wolverine was in it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that as I was watching it. I was like, it's kind of hard to get used to it, but is it that we're not used to it because we're still stuck on the nostalgic early 2000 X-Men, or is it just the fact that there's something about these? So I like the new cast just because it gives like a refreshing feeling to the X-Men series. So when they came out with First Class, I was like, this is really nice because you start from one point, and it's kind of like they were trying to keep building on. They keep building on. The problem with it is, I think by the time they got to Apocalypse, it was kind of like it was the third movie, but it was kind of like they're basically now introducing us to the X-Men that we've known our whole childhood.
Yeah.
The Storms and the Nightcrawlers and the Cyclops. And it's like we went 2 full movies without them. And now it's like, all right, now you're gonna get them, and then give us Dark Phoenix and kind of like force us to watch it versus, like I said, the early 2000s, we got them the entire trilogy through.
Yeah. I think Michael Fassbender makes a better Magneto, though.
He does.
Yeah.
I think they kept trying to, within the new cast, they kept trying to hone in on this friendship between Magneto and Dr. Xavier. But, you know, growing up, it was like, man, like Magneto and Dr. Xavier, like they were enemies. Like they may have been friends, but they were enemies. Like every movie ended with like, oh yeah, you're my friend again.
And that's pretty much how this ends, is they're friends again. And originally it was supposed to, like, the X-Men were always a metaphor for like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, yeah.
Yeah. What's your opinion of design of Apocalypse? When the movie first came out, there was that meme that it looked like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers, from the first Power Rangers movie.
Well, I mean, Apocalypse is supposed to go down as like the very first mutant.
Yeah.
And I guess he gives other mutants powers as he's in Cairo, Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he blesses them with other powers. So I can understand the old look of them. You know, I wasn't harping on that as much as I should, but I was like, you know, I guess he is. If he's the very first mutant, then I guess he would look a lot older than the other mutants, you know. So I guess this is the way that you kind of make it. My problem with him, though, with Apocalypse, he gave me like a lot more Mummy vibes than he gave me like X-Men vibes. You know, it was just like the entire movie, like I was watching X-Men, but I felt like, you know, at some point, you know, you feel like you're kind of watching the Mummy too, the way he kind of like maneuvers around and the way they treat him in the movie. Like, yeah, he's this ancient pyramid mutant, and now he's coming back and has more powers than everybody, and y'all gotta fight him.
Yeah, because that's kind of how the movie starts out, is they bring him into this temple and he's transferring his self into Oscar Isaac, who I guess can play an Egyptian. And he gets buried under there's like a rebellion, I guess, and I don't know how they set these blocks up to like slide under this temple to take it down, but they had these blocks set up that they could just like knock some hammers down, and these blocks just went down and took down this temple.
Yeah. And buries Apocalypse.
Yeah, I do like the opening, because you know these older X-Men movies, they had the opening title sequence was like this thing that took you through time, and that's what this did, is like took you through the time from Apocalypse basically to like the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And before it was like usually like the evolution thing.
Yeah, let's just let you know, X-Men been around the whole time, you know, Nazi Germany and all, you know, but that's pretty. I mean, it's an interesting concept. I will say this, and I wrote this down. Like, you know, they opened the movie up, like, you know, one thing, like the good review that you said that you read was pretty much, you know, how Singer still finds a way to kind of keep that excitement and keep that entertainment through the movie. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it opens up with that action of like X-Men and whatnot. So when you're looking at it, you're like, okay, well, yeah, this opening up with action scenes, and then like you said, you get that opening sequence going through time and everything, and then boom, you right here in 1980 whatever, and it's kind of like, all right, now we're about to get onto the movie. So I like the opening sequence and everything about it. So, you know, it gets your attention to the point where you're like, all right, I'm about to watch a good movie.
One thing I don't like, this is like part of like what I'll call a trilogy between First Class, Days of Future Past, and this, is that they made these 10 years apart and nobody seems to age.
Right. That's crazy.
It starts in the 60s and it kind of ends in the 80s, and James McAvoy nor Michael Fassbender seems to age throughout all of these movies.
Yeah, I think they were just probably too focused on telling the story of like who they are, because it is like, oh, now we're about to finally tell y'all how Dr. Xavier lost his hair. Yeah. And it's like, oh, first we told y'all like how he ended up in the wheelchair. Now we're gonna tell y'all how he lost his hair. So, all right, cool. You know, I will say this. I do feel like I said, I like the refreshment of the X-Men series, I do feel like they take a very long time for you to get to certain places. Yeah. And I feel like that's where I could agree with the negative review that you read. I felt like in this movie, a lot of it was rushed to the point where they were trying to force a lot of on us. Like, okay, now we want to introduce y'all to Storm and Cyclops and stuff like that. So now it's like, let's force those people onto them. And I felt like the Apocalypse villain could have been a lot bigger than he was. You know, I feel like he could have been on like a Thanos level where like he could have been introduced in like the second movie or maybe even the first movie where you realize like this is going to be a problem for y'all in the future versus like just throwing them in this one movie and it's like, all right, you got 2.5 hours to explain who Apocalypse is, how bad he is, and then we got to beat him.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Apocalypse is for the X-Men. He's like a Thanos level villain.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you watched the X-Men cartoon growing up, like I did.
Yeah.
And they're bringing back on Disney Plus, which is the greatest thing. But
get to watch the greatness of Jubilee.
He was the end-all, be-all villain of that series. Like, he was the villain. After we go through this montage of going through the years, we go to Cyclops, who is in his classroom and he's starting to develop his power. Cyclops has been always, to me, even in the cartoon, has been the worst character. I don't know why he's the leader of the X-Men.
The worst character?
Yeah, like, you shoot laser from your eyes. Cool.
Jubilee has to be the worst character.
Yeah, she starts out the X-Men cartoons. And she's in this movie, but she's not in it a lot. They keep trying to make her happen, and it never happens.
She's in this one?
She is, yeah. Like, she's the Chinese girl with the yellow leather jacket.
Oh, that was her? I gotcha, yeah.
She's kind of...
fireworks. Nobody wants the fireworks.
In the animated series, she's in the first...
A pyrotechnician.
Yeah, she makes fireworks.
Fireworks from her hands, like that's going. But yeah, no, yeah. I can see Cyclops. Cyclops at the same time, like you say, like I don't know, man. It's just like I get it. He shoots beams from his eyes, but at the same time, it's like, all right.
Yeah. Wolverine has always been my favorite character.
My favorite has always been Gambit, and they've never done a great job of like bringing Gambit to the movie screen.
Yeah. I felt obligated to like Gambit because he was the only Southern superhero that I knew. Like, there's no other Southern superheroes.
I just like how Gambit just came around in his trench coat, and he was just always so cool. I was like, damn, Gambit, cool as hell.
Yeah.
But like I said, man, every time they brought him to like the movie screen, like Gambit has not looked that cool. Gambit was supposed to be in this.
Channing Tatum has supposed to have been Gambit for like 4 or 5 years, but it's never happened.
I don't think you need, like, I think they try to like make Gambit a lot more cooler than he was. And I think the fact that what made Gambit cool was, one, he walked around in that trench coat, and then two, Gambit had like this real like a little dark dirty vibe to him.
Yeah,
like that was Gambit. Like, you can't get somebody like a pretty boy like Channing Tatum to play him. You can't get like you got to get somebody like a freaking Jared Leto or somebody. Get somebody like that can just be dirty or something to play him.
I don't like Jared Leto, but I think he would play Gambit pretty well.
Yeah. I guess somebody just as like, you know, mellow, and like I said, I think Channing Tatum would try to do too much as Gambit. You get all these other people, like they'll ruin them even more. You can't. You gotta have, like I said, somebody that'd be dark and dangerous.
But after we meet up with Cyclops, he gets bullied into a bathroom, and he blows a hole in the school, in the roof of the school. It's like the oldest story in time. But we cut to Nightcrawler and Angel in a cage fight in Germany. And Jennifer Lawrence shows up as Mystique for the 3rd time, and this was the beginning of her phoning in this role.
Phoning?
She did not want to be in these last 2 movies. And
did she?
You can tell it.
Oh, wow.
I think she really phones it into Dark Phoenix, but this was like the beginning of, I just don't want to be here. I signed this contract years ago, and I don't want to be here.
I didn't know that part. That's interesting. Hey, was it at the same time where she was doing Hunger Games or afterwards?
Well, she signed on during X-Men First Class, which was at the same time as Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
So it was at the beginning of her career.
Gotcha.
So she probably didn't know what she was signing up for until she got to these last two movies. That's why she dies in, spoiler alert, that's why she dies in X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Which is always interesting. Like when they kill like certain people in X-Men, I always find that interesting. Because I'm like, man, like you just killed somebody and like they're really a very vital part of like the series.
But the guy they cast as Nightcrawler for the second time, because it was played by another guy in X-Men 2. I can't remember his name though, but Nightcrawler has always been one of my favorite characters. Just from his like teleport, like especially in X-Men 2, where he goes through the White House and teleporting through walls and stuff and almost kills the president.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. I would say that.
And she rescues Nightcrawler from this like cage fighting arena place, and then
mutant MMA.
Yeah, basically. And we find out what Michael Fassbender has been up to. He's been working at a factory in somewhere
Germany
in
or something.
Denmark or something. I don't know where he's been. Somewhere in Europe.
Yeah,
where
trying to hide, trying to blend in. Yeah. Blend in after trying to kill the world.
And he's always been one of my favorite actors. Like I'll watch anything he's done. He's always like, especially in this movie, when his wife and daughter get killed by a stray arrow from like the sheriff's department, I guess.
Because that's what they did in the 1980s. You know, they didn't have guns.
Right.
Well, they did say they didn't want to have guns because they had metal on them. So the next best thing, I guess, was an arrow, a bow and arrow.
And it kind of fast forward through, like, you know, it's just Michael Fassbender working at this plant and then going home, and we find out that his daughter has like this ability to call animals to her, and that's when he's confronted, because he saved somebody at work from getting crushed by like this metal kiln or whatever that almost falls on somebody, and they go to try to arrest him, and his daughter can't control her powers, and like these birds and stuff fly around this guy, and he slips and the arrow goes through the daughter and his wife. And
which is a very, very strong arrow.
Yes.
Like, I can understand it going through the daughter, but I was like, the wife too?
Yeah.
Like, gosh, bro, like that must have been the strongest man in the world.
Right. And he just like really sells it with the sadness. That's why you hire Michael Fassbender. And meanwhile, Moira McTaggart is who works for the CIA, who in X-Men First Class, Charles has wiped her memory of what happened in Cuba because they were part of the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s. Yeah. The mutants were, the X-Men were. And she has found this cult that's been looking for Apocalypse, and they've been trying to wake up Apocalypse, and he eventually does. He finds...
but how dumb that cult is. Like, the cult's so dumb because they've been trying to wake up Apocalypse, but turns out that Moira McTaggart mistakenly awakens Apocalypse by her first time going down there.
Right.
Because I guess we need sun down here. So y'all did all this. Y'all a cult, and y'all did all this studying on Apocalypse. But y'all didn't realize that y'all needed to like put sunlight on this freaking tomb?
Pretty much. Yeah, they never figured that out. But he ends up waking up.
Yeah.
And he run, and with all of the continuity errors that the Fox X-Men movies have had, they've never figured out what to do with Storm. Never at all. But in this movie, she lives in Africa, and she's the one that finds Apocalypse and takes him home. And he learns everything about human history through the TV.
It's a pretty good place to learn it.
Yeah. And
it was a TV and the satellites. He used the satellites and the TV.
He like puts his hand on the TV and talks to everything, or the space and everything through the universe to figure out human history, and says that the weak have taken over the earth, and he needs to
cleanse it. Which is a good start. That's a good start to, taking over. Which, like I said, I feel like they had to get intentions with Apocalypse. But, I see, like, I guess eventually Marvel's going to end up taking over the X-Men again.
Oh, yeah. They own the X-Men, and they're going to do another.
So, Apocalypse itself, the character, the villain, is more like he's a main X-Men villain, but he's also a main villain within the Marvel universe.
Correct.
So what I could see happening would be our next Marvel villain, I think, is going to end up being like Kane or somebody.
Right. With Jonathan Majors showing up in Loki, which was amazing.
So then I think like our next our next Thanos type villain after we get through this phase 4 will probably end up being Apocalypse. And that's when you introduce the X-Men somehow. But I think they would do a better job of like introducing how evil Apocalypse is and just, going from there.
Yeah.
The way that it should have been done. Like I said, you got it in this movie, but it was rushed. And it was like, okay, I get what y'all are trying to do, but it's a big rush.
And it's also the same with Dark Phoenix. Like, they rushed that too. Like, in the comics, that took like 20 years of buildup
right,
for different issues to get to that. And Fox always rushed to that with X-Men 3 and then X-Men Dark Phoenix. Like, they always...
Every time they do it, it's like, all right, where do we go from here? Like, every time they kill Jean Grey and turn her to a fetus, it's like, all right, so what now? And then that's when all the X-Men movies start. And it's like, all right, well, guess we'll do it again. From the beginning, y'all.
Apocalypse goes on his journey of finding Horsemen, which includes Storm, Olivia Munn, who ruined Aaron Rodgers' career and now is working on John Mulaney's career.
Oh, wow. You got a real dark spot for her in your life.
Yeah.
Man.
And Angel, and who's the other one?
Angel, and then some.
And Magneto. Magneto's the other Horseman in this movie.
Yeah.
Because he manipulates Magneto into joining him. That happened in the animated series, but Angel was always better in that one. He gets metal wings, but this one, it was kind of corny, but...
Yeah, it was like super corny. Like I said, it was rushed. It was a bunch of rush.
Like they're trying to rush through this like huge level event, and he takes Magneto to Auschwitz to manipulate him into controlling like the iron, and I guess in the earth that
there's metal deep beneath the earth, and he can change the earth. And
which he kind of like unlocks that's his ability, is to unlock other mutants' powers.
Right. Which is cool. And I think that's a very, very big, and like I said, he gave me big Thanos vibes. You coming through in the purple portal, just like Thanos, and walking around, with your minions, just like Thanos. And it was like, all right, well, but I still didn't get like a Thanos like vibe. Like it was just like, all right, well, I guess eventually the X-Men are gonna beat him. Like with Thanos, it was like when Thanos finally showed up in the Avengers, you were like, oh damn.
Especially at the end of Infinity War.
Yeah. It was like, oh, y'all in trouble. Like y'all might beat him, and then it's like, nah, y'all not gonna beat him.
Like, especially, I always, like, when that happened, I mean, I knew in the next movie that they were going to beat Thanos. Yeah. But, like, I just imagined myself as, like, an 8 or 10-year-old that didn't pay attention to movie news and just saw this movie and was like, oh.
Oh, dang. Y'all didn't win.
Black Panther's dead. Spider-Man's dead.
Right. It's like, dang. So, and that's a good build-up. But like I said, I think the fact that you know how these movies are going to end, the X-Men are going to win at the end, and it's like, you know, I think a bigger surprise would have been if Apocalypse won, but it was just like, you know, the way movie history went, you know, it was like, well, Apocalypse is going to lose at the end after going through all this work of, you know, building up this super team of people.
And when Apocalypse shows up to Magneto, he's like, who the fuck are you? And which I'm like, okay, MCU, your PG, most of your movies are PG-13. Let's let Sam Jackson have one F-bomb in a movie. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I missed from these movies, at least. Fassbender really makes, like, as an actor, he makes you feel what his character is feeling. Because when his family's dead, he, like, disintegrates or, like, just kills that entire sheriff's department. And then he goes to the factory. And, well, I guess he doesn't really kill people in the factory. That's more of Apocalypse, like sinking people into the ground. But
he had intentions to do it, though. So
he moved the earth basically when his family died. Like, he just lost it, which is just great.
Which, like you say, in the X-Men movies, Fassbender does a very great job of making you feel. Mm-hmm. Which I hate how, like, they always end it with, like, him and Charles being friends again, because, like,
right.
In every movie, like, I feel like, all right, well, this is why Magneto is who Magneto is. And then it's like, oh, no, we still cool.
Yeah.
We friends.
Yeah.
But, like, in the early 2000 X-Men, it was like Magneto was like, no, like, I don't care what you say, Charles. Like, I'm killing, like, all the humans.
I'm going to kill these humans.
Like, I'm going to kill them. And then Charles was like, no, you're not. But, like, at Mike Fassbender's at the end of each X-Men is like, you know, that stuff I said about the humans, I take it back. I'm cool now.
Right.
I got a therapist.
And so at this point, Scott Summers has made it to the School of Gifted Youngsters, Xavier School, and he's learning how to control his abilities. And then Mystique brings Nightcrawler to the school, and they go out to a mall because it's the 80s. Like, a mall is a big deal in the 80s. And when we're coming back, Apocalypse has picked up Magneto at this point, and then because Charles has gone into Cerebro and has tried to find Magneto, and then Apocalypse picks that up and then, like, controls Magneto at this point, and then Cyclops' brother destroys Cerebro or tries to, and then Apocalypse shows up at the X Mansion, and Havoc is his name, I think, because Charles Havoc says wreak havoc on the Cerebro, and he tries to kill him, and then they kidnap Charles, and then he misfires and hits the X-Jet that Beast was working on, and the mansion starts to explode, and that's when Quicksilver shows up.
I think Quicksilver, and every time they've introduced him, doesn't get enough airplay.
Yeah.
Like, every time, like, X-Men tried it, they did it on Avengers and killed them there. They, like, every time they introduce him, I think, like, he can always have so much more. Yeah. But, you know, they don't give enough airplay. And then they always give him, like, some kind of BS storyline. Like, and Magneto's your daddy.
This version of Quicksilver was in WandaVision, and it was a misdirect.
Yeah.
I remember watching it, and I heard that Evan Peters was cast in WandaVision. I was like, oh, well, he's playing extra Quicksilver, and then he turned out to be somebody else, and I was like, okay.
You're right.
Right. You're just messing with us.
Like, give him more airplay, guys, please, right. Somebody.
But I think I read somewhere that because it's a similar sequence to Days of Future Past, where everything slows down and he goes through the mansion saving everybody.
Yeah.
And it took like 6 months to make that scene. I don't know if that's
really
correct. Yeah. which is, I was like, damn, that's a lot.
That is a lot. I mean, I think that's probably one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah. I think the Days of Future Past sequence is a little bit better, but
yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
But
I forget about that one.
Nightcrawler and Jean Grey and Cyclops, because after the mansion explodes, the government shows up and they're able to use Jean Grey to like hide from the government, and then they sneak into this helicopter that's got all these mutants, and they take them to Alkali Lake, which I think this was the most unnecessary Wolverine cameo.
Yeah, they try to find a way to get him in all the time, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's like he shows up for like 5 minutes, and then it's like a real problematic scene where he sees Jean Grey and he's like attracted to her, and she's like 17 at this point or something.
He's like, I'm gonna kill everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna fall in love with this girl someday, even though she's like 17 or 18.
And they're gonna kill me in the next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I do think Oscar Isaac was the best decision for this role as Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, he does good with what he's given.
Like I said, I think so. This is my thing about the movie. I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, I did too. I enjoyed the X-Men remake series.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like they could have done a lot better with the storyline of Apocalypse, and they could have done a lot better with a lot of the characters as well, as far as like not rushing them. Because I mean, when you get Havoc in the First Class, which is Alex Summers, you could have had some type of innuendo of saying, you know, that's Scott Summers' brother, or like something about like, yeah, my brother is probably going to be better than me, or something like that, you know, just to kind of help build these characters as well. And then not waiting like 2 more movies to finally introduce everybody else. Is like, yeah, like maybe we could get a baby Storm or baby Scott Summers in like, you know, Days of Future Past, so you can see them as children and be like, oh, that's going to be the new Scott Summers, or something like that, you know?
Right.
But, you know, it's like they focus on each movie at a time. And then it's like when you finally get to Apocalypse, it's like, all right, now we want to bring y'all Storm, but we have to bring all of these players in now.
That's my biggest problem with like the Marvel Fox movies, especially with Fantastic Four. They never thought about combining, like having a shared universe with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah, you know, I think Marvel opened everybody's eyes to like finally doing that, and finally like connecting all of these different universes. Because even outside of like superheroes, you got like television shows like Grey's Anatomy and all those connecting their shows and their universes and everything like this, saying like, oh well, all these characters can exist within one main universe, but have their own individual show where we can actually take the time to character develop, but then bring them all together so you can actually see how. And I was like, you know, Marvel finally opened that doorway, but it's just like you say, like if you are Fox and you're like, I got Fantastic Four, I got X-Men, like maybe at some point we could bring them all together. I mean, they did it in the comics, you know, why can't you do it on the movies? But it's like everybody just solely focused on the money grabbing of like one movie. And X-Men and I don't know how Marvel's gonna do it. And I say like I feel like this has been rushed, but X-Men itself is a lot. The movie itself and the concept of an X-Men movie is always going to be a lot, because there's so many characters that you have to introduce. And you kind of want to tell the story of like Wolverine, but you also want to tell the story of Jean Grey, and you want to tell the story of Cyclops and Rogue and Dr. Xavier and stuff like that. So it's like, damn, how do you get all those in one movie?
Because even at the end of this movie, they set up Mr. Sinister as the next big villain, which he was a big villain in the animated series.
Yeah.
But who knows if we're ever going to see him again, with Marvel controlling all their characters now, basically.
Who knows, man? I know Marvel probably do a better job at it.
Absolutely. You know? Like, well, with Spider-Man No Way Home that they did at the end of last year, that just showed that Kevin Feige knows what he's doing.
Right, right, right. Those people like Marvel knows exactly what they're doing, which they'll do a lot better job at stuff like this. I will say this, man, about what do we get? We got pretty much 20 years of X-Men movies.
Yeah.
From 2000 to 2019 when they last shot Dark Phoenix, we got X-Men's, Wolverines.
Logan was the best out of all of them.
Logan was definitely a great movie. I enjoyed that one.
I remember sitting in the theater when Charles Xavier died in that movie, and there was like a high school kid in front of me who was laughing, and I got so angry. I was like, oh no, this guy has been Charles Xavier since I was in the 5th grade, and Hugh Jackman has been Wolverine since I was in the 5th grade, and you are not laughing right now.
Right. You do not know the severity of the situation that is happening here. You're gonna piss me off, man.
Right, yeah.
But yeah. I mean, you get 20 years of that, and I would like to say, like, although some of these movies may have been rushed, or you may have like kind of put one character in the wrong place or not developed enough characters, I feel like all of those X-Men movies, because especially when you look at the way Fantastic Four is, or the way like Superman movies, Batman movies, like how much those movies have failed. The X-Men movie always delivered. I will say that.
Yeah.
Even though it may have not been to the best, they always deliver. Like I said, Apocalypse wasn't a bad one. The worst one probably in this series probably would have been Dark Phoenix, just because, I don't know, I felt like it was just, like I said, I forgot I even watched the movie, but,
yeah.
I just felt like, they were trying to finally like put a end cap on the X-Men series, and it's like, all right,
There's more good X-Men Fox movies than bad ones.
Yeah, exactly. I will say Fox at least did a good job of that. Now Marvel probably do better, but
it's basically what gave us, like, we last time we talked about Blade, is we said it was like the thing that started the MCU. It was Blade, and then the X-Men movies, and then Sony's Spider-Man that showed us that, oh, these comic book movies can be good.
Yeah,
and
they
then
can make money.
Kevin Feige was like, oh, we can build this whole universe and then have all these characters interact with each other.
Just imagine how big like the MCU is going to be by the time they introduce like X-Men and stuff.
That's why I always like, when I see kids that love these movies, I'm like, you don't know how good you got it. When I was growing up, the only thing that was good was Blade.
Right. Yeah, Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin.
Gosh, yeah. But we, after we go through Alkali Lake, they free Wolverine, who shows up in this movie, an unnecessary cameo, and then they find some flight suits, which are just the regular old leather and black suits that they just find an excuse to use. And they fly to, I guess, Egypt, where
Cairo, Egypt.
Yeah, because at this point, Apocalypse has forced Charles Xavier to send a message to the world that he's going to take over the world, basically, that the strong are going to beat the weak and everything. And Charles kind of flips it on his head and tells everybody to protect the weak or whatever. And his master plan is to take over Charles Xavier's body.
Because he just got this new body that he just woke up in. And then, well, I need a newer one now.
Because basically the way he's obtained power through the years is sending himself into other bodies and taking over those. And there's a big battle that ensues, and after a while, Charles Xavier goes bald. That's the origin story they decide for Charles Xavier's baldness, is that he tried to get taken over by Apocalypse.
And Apocalypse is bald, so which entails Charles goes bald because Apocalypse is bald.
Right.
But they stopped the process. But they didn't stop it before he lost his hair.
Yeah. And then Nightcrawler gets him out of there. And then they get stuck in this building, and that's when they have this big mind battle. And to me, Apocalypse, one of his main powers was be able to like be a giant. And the only time they show that is in this mind battle between him and Charles Xavier.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, they could have did so much more with that character.
Yeah.
To bring more fear of that character. And like during this entire fight scene, like one of my biggest things during the fight scene was like, what the hell was Magneto doing? Like
he's just sitting there.
He's just juggling debris across the world. And it's like, bro, like everybody else is fighting, and like Magneto's job was to juggle debris.
Yeah, he's just bringing like stuff up in the earth and everything. Like he's just bringing this, like, because all over the world this stuff is coming up from the earth, and he's controlling it because his powers are being amplified by Apocalypse. And I was like, okay, like, and at this point, I've just been numbed from cities being burned or destroyed at this point, because this was the year that like the second Independence Day came out, and all these like world-ending movies came out, and I'm like, okay.
It was just like, yeah, I understood, like, Apocalypse is like, Magneto, you're going to tear this world down and we'll build a new one. But it was like, all right, so through that process, it was like, does it call for you to just bring all this dirt here?
Right.
Like, do you have to bring all the dirt of the world to the one place? Like, is this how you're destroying it?
But after all that, like, Charles and and Apocalypse have this what I'll call a mind palace battle back and forth, and then Jean Grey out of nowhere just unleashes the Phoenix Force, which just sets up the next movie, and she burns Apocalypse out of there, and then Magneto reacquires his senses and is joining the X-Men again, and he throws metal pylons down, which makes an X in the dirt. And everyone just combines all their forces to just burn Apocalypse to ashes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because one of the strongest mutants is easily weak against fire.
Yeah. And he kind of like, in his death, he kind of recognizes like, oh, this is Jean, like the Phoenix Force is more powerful than me, which kind of sets up the next movie as well. And he just disintegrates at the end. And
yeah. Which, if you, like I said, if you look at all the, you can Google them, like, strongest X-Men and villains. Jean Grey, of course, the Phoenix, they will call her. Not Jean Grey, but the Phoenix of Jean Grey is somewhere in the top 5. And then you got Apocalypse up there as well. But I think they always rank Apocalypse higher than her, which is another reason why this movie just is like super silly. Because it's like, all right, y'all couldn't beat him, but Jean Grey just unleashed the Phoenix, and now she is more powerful than Apocalypse. So, I mean, like I said, I get it. Somebody has to win. Yeah. At the end.
I mean, it's called X-Men, so the X-Men have to win at the end.
Exactly. But I was like, all right, I guess, but like I said, I think at the time, so this came out in 2016. And when did the first Avengers movie come out?
It came out in 2012.
2012. So we got 2012 Avengers. Then we get X-Men Apocalypse 2016. But at this point, we're really not really connecting the Marvel universe, the MCU, as we have now. And, and I think now looking back on Apocalypse, after seeing everything that could be done, everything that has been done, you see and you look at it, you're like, this could have been better. At the time when it came out, I was like, you know what? That's a pretty cool movie. But looking back at it now, I'm like, yeah, this could have been 10 times better than it was. Like, this entire series could have been 10 times better than it was.
Oh, yeah.
But, like I said, we like get spoiled by the X-Men and the Spider-Mans and all that stuff. Because like I said, we had Blade, and you start to be like, all right, well, I enjoyed the X-Men movie, so y'all come out with an X-Men movie, I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna enjoy it. But now Marvel has spoiled us with all of this, so you really got to like go above and beyond to make a pretty good superhero movie for us to be like, because you see what they did with like the Justice League, and you're like, yeah, that was trash.
The only thing that I would say that Marvel has like flopped on is the Eternals.
The Eternals, yes.
They tried to introduce too many characters at one time.
They tried to introduce too many characters, and then they tried to also introduce like, it's one thing to introduce a bunch of characters, but then you introduce like a storyline that nobody really like pays attention to in the comic world. And then it's like, all right, so we're just supposed to all of a sudden just jump on board with these people. And then like,
you try to introduce like a cult character like the Black Knight, who's probably gonna be in the next Blade movie.
Yeah.
As well. And you just tried to do too much.
It's like one of those, like, I guess the way you look at it is the Eternals sometimes are like one of those throwaway movies. Like Captain Marvel was a throwaway movie, but you still kind of knew who she was. But I think the Eternals is one of those movies where, like in the second one, when they come out with the second Eternals, you're like, oh, okay, I get you now. Or they start connecting characters from the Eternals to other movies. You're like, all right, I get it now. Like I had to watch the Eternals to understand this, but it was like one of those throwaway movies where like we got to make this to make sense of everything else.
I think the only reason Eternals exist was to set up Dane Whitman as the Black Knight. For the first Blade movie, because they haven't really announced a second Eternals movie.
Which they probably shouldn't.
I wouldn't mind them showing up in like other movies, just not an Eternals movie.
I just don't. People like that where they're like, we here and we save the world from like all of the like, why did you show up on Thanos and blase. It's kind of like you're making this team a lot more powerful than everybody else, which at the same time was kind of like the Captain Marvel joint. When Captain Marvel showed up in Endgame, and then they were like, we're gonna protect you, Captain Marvel, while you protect so
you can blow up all these ships in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's like we're fighting all this time, we're spending all this time doing this. You showed up and blew up all these ships by yourself, and then you come and take the Infinity Gauntlet, and then Thanos punch you one time, and you never show up again until the end. It's like, what was the use of that? Like, were you trying to show off, or like, are you really that powerful, or are you just a waste of film?
Yeah.
So,
but the end of X-Men Apocalypse shows our heroes in different colorful costumes, and if you expected those colorful costumes to show up in the next movie, you're wrong. They go back to they're more colorful, but they're like blue and yellow, like from the original '60s comics. But as far as individual costumes, not so much. And Magneto and Charles end up as friends again, even though they were enemies. And
then once again, find a way to be enemies and be friends again
in the next movie. So
it's just
what
stupid.
What's your overall opinion of X-Men Apocalypse?
X-Men Apocalypse, like I said, man, I like it. I would give it, if I was to rate it out of a scale of 1 to 10. Now seeing back then, watching X-Men Apocalypse, I probably would have gave X-Men Apocalypse probably like an 8.5.
Yeah.
But now I probably give it like a 7. It's still high up there, but I'm not gonna like I said, seeing like Endgame and all those other movies and see how those turned out and just looking at it from a different light, I give it a 7.5. It's still a good movie. It's not one that I'm gonna be like, I'm bored today and I feel like watching X-Men Apocalypse, but
that's kind of how I felt when I first saw it. I was like, and when I watched it the other day, it was the first time I watched it in like 4 years or so, and I was like, this isn't that bad. So I was like, I'll give this a 7.
Yeah,
it was.
That's terrible.
It's got a lot of actors that I like, so it was better than I thought it was.
Yeah, a lot of times with the X-Men, they do a lot better than with the Eternals. Combining powers and making sure that some people can fight a lot better than others. Versus the Eternals, and you're like, I just got this one person that we can depend on defeating this enemy. But, at the end of the day, like I said, I think there were a lot of things that could have done differently. But, the original X-Men that we had in the early 2000s kind of were a remake of our childhood of the animated series, and pretty much went on that. This new revamped series of X-Men pretty much tried to give us a little bit more, a little bit. I guess it tried to give us a little bit more relationship wise, a little bit more, deeper dive into the characters' lives, which I'm not mad at that either.
That's X-Men Apocalypse. We'll leave it there. If you want to find the show on social media, we're at Second Take Movies on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to leave a suggestion for a future episode, you can send an email to secondtakemoviespod@gmail.com. Larry, thanks for coming on again.
Man, always, man. I told you, man, you give me an excuse to watch a movie that I wouldn't watch on my own.
When they announce the new Blade movie, we'll have to do the next two. The other two Blade trilogy movies.
Okay, we could do that.
Because I'm pretty sure they're gonna start shooting it this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they release a trailer this year. So,
cool. Yeah, I'm down with that. We could do that, man.
So I will see you next week with a Pirates of the Caribbean movie with my friend Jake. So I will see you next week, and Larry will see you at another time. Thanks for listening,
good, brother.